So Fran Dunphy is 3-15 in the big dance. That's a lot of one in Dunphy's. The 10th-seeded Temple Owls take on the 7th-seeded Iowa Hawkeyes in Brooklyn on Friday afternoon. It's NCAA tournament time, and we're here to talk about it. Joe Polinsky is here. I'm Adrian Fedkiw. Joe is making a special guest appearance on this show today. Well, Joe and I go way back. We go back to the Temple days. We did Al Sports Update together. And now he's making an appearance on this show. So, Joe, introduce yourself to everybody.
Thank you, Adrian. Good to be here. Joe Polinsky. I was on Al Sports Update as a sideline reporter and editor and worked with Adrian for a good part of, I guess, 2 years. And have a passion for the Temple Owls and media production and broadcasting, and just happy to be on the show and happy to be talking about my alma mater, who is now making their 32nd appearance in school history in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time. It's been a 2-year drought. And just before we get into the games really quick, I thought I was passionate about the Temple Owls. But this guy, Joe Polinsky, he went to the Boca Raton Bowl. He got drenched. There was a monsoon. And, well, how was your experience, Joe?
To be a diehard fan of the Owls, I will sit through any kind of weather, rain, snow, sleet, shine. I will always follow my Temple Owls through anything, through good seasons, through bad seasons. But most of the time, they're always good seasons, and they always make it time to make it exciting for the fans.
Yeah. And maybe we'll get you on some Temple football shows. But today we're here to talk about this Iowa game. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I am not picking Temple to win this game. It's reverse psychology. You see, every time I pick them to win, they lose. So in my bracket pool, I'm picking them to lose. That means they're going to win. I'm hoping this reverses the trend of Dunphy. I really hope it does. We'll see what happens.
I'm hoping in my bracket, I have them winning. I have them getting to the round of 32 against Villanova. And I see them this time giving Villanova in a potential rematch a really good game. Because I feel as though that they have seen Villanova. They saw them in a game back in Leocourt Center back in mid-February. And Villanova pretty much dominated the game from beginning to end with Jalen Brunson. So I feel as though the Owls, who seem, in my opinion, to be a defensive-oriented team, and Coach Dunphy, who's now, of course, the Big Five, all-time winningest coach. He passed his predecessor, John Chaney. I think he was able to teach and ingrain into their minds, hey, you know what? We can hang with Villanova. If we can beat a team like SMU and UConn twice, Cincinnati twice, granted they may not be as talented this year or have the depth as Villanova has, but you know what? They could, if they put their minds to it, hang with Villanova. So I see them going to the round of 32 and giving Villanova a good test from beginning to end. But I still believe, though, that Villanova will ultimately, unfortunately, put an end to the Owls season.
Well, it is March, and you know what that means for Villanova. Oh, we make fun of Temple because they go one in Dunphy all the time, but Nova they always drop the ball in March, and right now I got a cup. I'm drinking their tears.
Well, they did lose last year in the round of 32 to NC State, so it was an early exit for the Cats last year. But I mean, in 2009, I mean, granted it was 7 years ago. It was a long time. They did advance to the Final Four, but I mean, they did have an early exit last year. So I don't know if it's in the books again this year. I mean, if they get past us, they may be facing a really interesting Miami of Florida squad. So keep that on the Wildcats' plate. So they have a tough road. They have a really tough road. I believe the South bracket in the current field of 68 is the hardest bracket, in my opinion, because I think we have a lot of talented teams. I'm going to say us and Nova being included, Miami, and of course, the Kansas Jayhawks and the Maryland Terrapins, with
Yeah.
Melo Trimble and all, so they're pretty talented themselves. So
Yeah, we'll get into some of the other games later in the show. But today, not today, but right now we're going to talk about this Iowa Temple game. And maybe we'll do a quick little recap of the season because these are two teams that are heading in opposite directions. The Owls have won 13 of their last 17 games. They opened 8-7. And then you got Iowa. They've dropped 6 of its last 8 games. And they had a stretch back in November, December when they won 16 of 18. So two different teams, two different directions.
And weren't they fourth in the country at one point?
Yeah,
Iowa?
Yeah, they were way. They were talking about being a 1 seed potentially during the season, and now all of a sudden they slide all the way down to a 7. Just this is something that Iowa's been known to do the last couple of years under Fran McCaffrey. A couple of years ago, they slid all the way to the play-in game. They got onto a huge losing streak at the end of the year, and now they're doing it again.
Yeah. But, there is a Philadelphia connection. Fran McCaffrey is a University of Penn. He played guard at University of Penn, and he's a LaSalle High grad, so he is from the area. So there is a Philadelphia connection between him and Temple, if you will. I mean, Temple's from North Philadelphia, but he didn't go to Temple. He went to University of Penn, but there is a Philly connection there. But that's just a little side note, so... But it'll be an interesting game, I think. But like you said, we're going in 2 different directions. I think Temple's on the upswing. I think ever since that Tulsa game in late last month, they found they're hitting their stride. I think at the right time. Now, I don't know if you can say how their tournament. I mean, their tournament, of course, they did not do as well as they had hoped, but. I mean, not all the top seeds ever win their tournament. This was like the first year that all the I think 20 number 1 seeds in conference tournaments lost. Yeah. So we weren't alone in that, and we weren't alone in that regard. So I mean, we could take pride in knowing that 19 other teams had to sweat it out, trying to get at-large bids on Selection Sunday. Even Monmouth, who ended up being the first team out, which I'm shocked, but. It's not about Monmouth, but I'm just saying we weren't alone in that.
Don't get me started on Monmouth. Oh, that was the sham of the century. I hate that.
That was hard. That was hard. I mean, to be one of those kids and to have the season that you had, and not only beat Notre Dame and Georgetown and USC. But to have the kind of animated bench that we've ever seen in college basketball, they did all these little animations on the sidelines. But the fact that they play in the MAAC, you would think that would be a 2-team conference with, of course, the Iona Gales winning it all. But turns out it wasn't, and I'm sure they're going to be the number 1 seed. I'm sure they're the number 1 seed in the NIT. So. I'm sure it was heartbreaking for the kids, and hopefully they can get another chance to redeem themselves next year, but we weren't alone.
That was the best team in the school's history, and they're not even going to the NCAA tournament. It's a shame. It really is. But let's get back to the topic at hand, because I talked with you shortly about this and how the Owls, they started 8-7, and when they lost to Houston, 77-50. When they lost that game, I was just I was done. I didn't think they had any chance of being a tournament team, and they just went and killed it in the conference.
I know they went on a tear there in the conference with them beating SMU. I mean, that was the signature win of the year, and normally we usually do well in conference, I would say, every year. But normally, we always have a signature win, and it usually comes out of conference. We would, and SMU happened to be in conference, but SMU, it always seems as though during the winter, I mean, most notably December, January, is when we usually hit our stride, and we always knock off a top 10 team ranked in the AP at home. I mean, it dates back to like 2008. We knocked off Tennessee, who was eighth, and then it went to even Villanova. It hit Kansas. It hit Duke, but they were all out of conference. And now this one was in conference, so it kept like the AP top 10 streak going at home. But we never hit. We never. I mean, it seemed like that was like one of the turning points of the season, but we didn't have like a good non-conference win other than SMU. I mean, we beat Minnesota, but we lost to North Carolina, Villanova, and Butler and Utah. So, I mean, granted, they were all really top, good quality teams, all NCAA tournament teams, as it turned out. But I mean, we just if we could have gotten like one or two of those wins, I'm sure we would not be looking at a 10 seed or even a 9 or an 8. I think we would be like in Iowa's spot, a 7 or a 6.
Mhm.
If got like a one of those non-conference wins that were good quality wins, either on the road or on a neutral site.
Yeah. Now moving on to the game itself. One of the things that Temple likes to do, they like to shoot a lot of 3-pointers. They make 7.8 of them a game. They may not have a great percentage, but they shoot a lot of threes. And this is something that's interesting because you'll have times when you'll play UConn, you come back, that ridiculous comeback they had, and it was because they made like four or five threes in the span of 3 minutes. And when you do that, you can make comebacks like that. But then they'll go into lulls where they can't hit a shot, and they'll have like a 7 to 8 minute field goal drought, and those are killer. That happened against UConn. We just couldn't hit a shot for a while. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it goes back to I think we do a good job at doing shooting threes and shooting the shots that are given to us, presented to us that are easy. But I think we have to work our bigs better. I think we have to get the ball inside a little bit more and work them in and let them earn some points in the paint a little bit and not have so many shots being contested from outside. So we can't rely on the three all the time. It's like you live by the three, you die by the three. You know what I mean? And we can't just rely on the three every night. And I mean, granted, we have a great shooting staff. We have guys who can shoot, but I think we have to get some guys in there that can give us the presence and the big that we need inside. If we were to move,
someone's got to tell Jalen Bond that he can't hit a jump shot. He takes 3 or 4 of these 3-pointers a game, it seems like, and he never hits these things. I don't know why he steps out and takes these shots. You're an offensive rebounder. Get your ass in the paint.
But he's a good player.
Oh, very good player. Best player.
Very good player. He was a transfer from Texas. Very good player. So is Devin Coleman's come a long way. As so is we had mentioned this earlier. Quentin DeCozy's come a long way as well, and our sophomore guard Obi Enchi Yawa.
Obi Enchi, I love that name. It's awesome.
I will get his name correct before he graduates. I guarantee. But he has come a long way. He really has, and he's going to be a breakout star, I think, and he already is. But he's going to continue. And don't be surprised. He may end up in the draft one day. You never know if he keeps improving his play, because he's 6'8". He could shoot from. It seems like he could shoot from anywhere and feel comfortable with it. So.
Yeah, he's a stretch player. He's like a Euro player almost, and he's gained a lot of confidence. Like the second half of the season is when he's kind of really taken off and soared. Yeah,
absolutely. And we have just our coach. I mean, thank Coach Dunphy and Coach Duke. I mean, and the coaching staff. They've stuck with them through the whole season. They've been with them. They've recruited these guys, and I'm sure that they're going to continue to just be with them and keep mentoring them and keep making them into even better basketball players than they already are.
Now, we just talked about the 3-point shooting, but here's the thing. here's the thing where it might be a little difficult. Iowa defends the arc very, very well, limiting its opponents 30.6% from three. That's 24th in the country. Now, during their losing streak, they've struggled with their defense, and Jared Utoff and Peter Jock, their two best players, they haven't played up to the same ability, the same caliber that they were earlier in the season. So it'll be really interesting to see which Iowa team shows up, because if it plays defense, if it guards the arc, I think we're going to have a lot of trouble. But who knows? Because they've been so bad, that trend might continue.
Yeah. They've been inconsistent. Iowa, ever since they went up to University Park to play Penn State, and when they lost to Penn State, I think it was 79-75 was the score. It seemed like that started the trend of their downfall, I think. Because Penn State was considered on their NCAA tournament resume a bad loss, and once they had that bad loss, it seemed like the wheels started to fall off, I think. Yeah. But granted, this was the same Iowa team that beat Tom Izzo's Spartans, Michigan State Spartans, twice. So they'll lose. They lost to Penn State, but then they're able to beat the number 2 seed Spartans twice. So with the talented team that they have, so it's hard to say what kind of Hawkeyes team is going to show up, like you said. But again, you can make the same argument about Temple. What kind of team are we going to have?
Yeah, so who knows? And historically, both of these teams, at least the last couple years, they've struggled in the tournament. Although we have won a couple first round games, somewhat recently. We had the one with Khalif Wyatt that year where we should have beat Indiana, and we didn't. And then you had the one year we beat Penn State, could have beaten San Diego State, we didn't.
And that was with Kawhi Leonard too, and we took that. We took that team to double overtime, and I thought we were going to upset them as the 3 seed. And we came close.
This is where I have This is where a little bit of a gripe with Fran, because sometimes in these games, the upset type of games, he'll get really, really conservative down the stretch. Against Indiana, we would just hold the ball until there was like 5 or 6 seconds on the shot clock, and we'd be forced into a difficult shot. And this happened against San Diego State as well. They try to limit the possessions because, but he would try to land. Sometimes he plays a little not. You still there, Joe?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
You cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll change the subject. Okay. So let's talk about Iowa and their players, Jared Utoff, Peter Jock. These are their 2 big names, but they also have a couple other key parts of their team. Mike Gisella is a solid point guard. Adam Woodbury, their big man inside, big 7-footer named Dom Yule. So this is a very talented Iowa team. We just don't know which team's going to show up.
Exactly, and we just have to be ready for their best. And I'm sure the guys have done. The team's done a great job in this week. I'm sure they're going to be in preparation mode and studying their film and studying what kind of offense that Fran McCaffrey likes to do, whether it be a zone type offense or a defense rather that we're going to be facing, like when we have the ball, and what kind of offense does he run, and what do we have to defend against? So do we have to limit and close off the 3-point shot, or do they rely heavily on their bigs inside, or I don't know. We just have to be ready for whatever comes at us, and those are very good players and could be one of a couple of the best in the Big Ten, but we just have to be ready for them.
Yeah. I think the way to beat them is to beat them on the boards. I think they're a little bit soft inside, even though Woodbury's a big guy. But Utah's like 6'9", and he only grabs like 6 boards a game. So he's a little bit soft inside. If we can attack the glass with Jalen Bond, if he can have a huge game on the boards, the offensive glass, I think we have a great chance to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the keys for us are to feed Bond inside, let Bond work for us, let him work, and then start feeding. I think the guards a little bit. Feed Devin Coleman, feed Josh Brown. Those 2 guards have developed very nicely for us, and I think have Obi and Quentin contribute as well from the sides as well. I mean, Devin has been a great 6th man for us, but let the others let them all contribute. Let all 6 of these guys contribute for us, and like we have been doing, and we should be fine.
Yeah.
I shouldn't see any problem. And Dingle too. You can't forget Dingle, Daniel Dingle.
The good old Dingleberry. I love the Dingleberry.
Who's not doing too bad himself. He's doing okay.
He was huge in that UConn game, man. Huge in that UConn game. Hit like a trio of threes and that 5-3 stretch I was talking about earlier. Yeah. The Dingleberry.
Yeah. Dingleberry is right. But I don't know. It'll be a fun day up in the Barclays Center, that's for sure.
Yeah.
On 3/15. Yeah.
Yep. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'm not having to work that day. I do work for the PhillyInfluencer.com now, but I won't have to do anything for them. I already told them. Well, I'm going to tell them that I'm going to be watching the game, and if any Eagles news breaks, they got to give me 2 hours.
Yeah, well, and two, after that American Conference tournament had ended, on our part, like we were knocked out by UConn and Kevin Ali's squad, but knowing that we were the number 1 seed, we had lost again for the 2nd straight year in the semifinals. But this year seemed to be different, because last year what seemed to hold us out of the tournament was 3 losses to SMU. Now, people I'm sure know that was the reason. If we had won one of the 3, we would have gotten in, I'm sure. But this year it seemed to be different, because I compared in my head physically how this year's team measured up to last year's team. Pretty much the same exact kind of roster. And this year it was a complete turnaround. We beat the SMU team. We beat UConn twice. And we beat Cincinnati twice. And then we split with both Houston and Tulsa, who were pretty much respectable, in the conference. So this year was a complete turnaround from last year when we had lost to SMU, which probably denied us the tournament bid. So I could see that, and then we won, of course, the regular season conference in the American. So, and no number 1 seed has ever been denied a tournament bid, I believe, since in the last 10 years, is what I read, I think the other day. So I'm sure it seemed like the writing was there that we were going to get the bid, and we ended up getting the bid. And it turned out to not be a playing game in Dayton, which I was very concerned about. I'm like, do we have to play our way in? No, we got one of the buys. So, and it seemed like the committee, going off a little bit on the Owls, but it seemed like the committee valued the American a lot better than I thought they did. I mean, they took the conference champ UConn, they took Temple, and then they took Cincinnati, and then they went with Tulsa, which was still an interesting pick to me, which I don't know why they went with Tulsa, but, Tulsa had a pretty good season in and of itself. So, you can't undermine what Tulsa did. So they valued the American pretty well, with 4 teams getting in. So
yeah,
not too bad.
Yeah, I thought last year's team was better because we had Will Cummings, but like it was the other wins against UConn, beating them twice, beating Cincinnati twice to improve the resume, because those are top 50 wins. So we had 5 of them. Last year, I believe it was only 1. It was just Kansas, and that was it. I don't remember what they were against the top 50 of the RPI, but last year, we were the first team to not be picked. We were the 1 seed in the NIT. We
Mhm.
were, and that's what they said. Temple was the first team out, and I remember, I remember watching the Mountain West Championship game and Wyoming being a bid stealer, and they stole our bid. It was awful.
Mm.
So, but this year, got some of those wins. I as you may know, I don't know if you know, I'm a bracketologist, so I like to do all the crunching of the numbers. And when I actually did the final bracket, I was like, all right, Temple's going to be okay. So I was hoping they would avoid Dayton. I didn't have them going into Dayton, and they got the 10 seed just as I expected.
Absolutely. And now we're going to see how because it seems like in recent years, and this is going back a couple years ago when we were undergrads there, they always used to be the higher seed playing the lower seed.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like you said, it was like always a 1 and Dunphy.
Yeah.
So, but now it's going to be interesting this year to see how we fare as the lower seed now playing a team higher seeded than us. Because
That's a great point. Keep going.
Yeah, because now we're the 10 seed, we're playing a 7 seed. So now we're going to see how we're going to do as a lower seed playing up against the higher seed. Do we have the team to have like quote unquote Cinderella type capabilities? Do we have what it takes to pull like a LaSalle did a couple of years ago as a 13 seed advancing to the Sweet 16, or like a Florida Gulf Coast in 2014, I believe it was, advancing to the Sweet 16, or even a George Mason. But the double digit seeds, they can create some damage in the tournament, with George Mason doing what they did 10 years ago or whatever. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how we fare this time around. I think this is maybe the first or second season in Coach Dunphy's tenure with the Owls that we were the lower seed in the tournament, playing up against a team higher seeded than us in our first tournament game.
Yeah. Yeah. Going on that shortly, because that brought to mind the Temple teams of the late 90s, early 2000s. You had 2001. We got all the way to the Elite Eight under John Chaney. We were an 11 seed. Made a huge run into the regional final. That was that team led by, you had Lynn Greer, you had Quincy Wadley, you had Kevin Lyde. And that team got all the way to the Elite Eight. I believe 99, they were a 10 seed, and they got all the way to the Elite Eight, lost to Duke. And then the one time they were a 2 seed, they lost to Seton Hall in the second round. So I remember these days very, very vividly. See, I've been a fan since growth, so I've always been a Temple fan.
Diehards, man. Yeah. Diehards. That's why it's called March Madness.
Yep. So
it's called March Madness. You can't script March. Like you can't script October in baseball, you can't script March.
And then going back to this era, I mean, there's been 2 despicable losses. One against Cornell just got just obliterated, and then the loss to South Florida was hideous. I thought that was an ugly.
That was a tough game. That was tough.
Yeah. So
yeah. And then the other ones were respectable. I mean, they lost to Michigan State, but Michigan State's always good when it comes to college basketball. And then they lost to Arizona State, but of course Arizona State has a Houston Rocket now that's known by the name of James Harden. So, and I think last time I heard he's pretty good in the NBA. So, yeah. But we lost to 2 decent enough teams, but like you said, Cornell and South Florida they were not good games. And Cornell ended up making, I think, the Sweet 16 that year. After they beat us, I think they won their next game, and then they went on to the Sweet 16 that same year.
Yeah.
But we won the Penn State game and we won the NC State game, so we have had success in a little bit of success in the NCAA tournament, and hopefully we'll have success again Friday afternoon. So against an Iowa team. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. to be the lower seed, and we'll see what magic we can kind of come up with. Mm-hmm.
Predictions for the game. Who's going to win? I think I know who you're going to pick, but who's going to win and what's the score going to be?
I gotta go with the Owls, man. I gotta go with my Owls. I'm gonna say Temple's gonna win, but it's gonna be a very close game, and I'm gonna say Temple. Usually, it seems like Temple averages like right in and around like 64, 65 points a game, give or take. So I'm gonna say Temple's gonna take this one 68-64 over Iowa.
Okay. Now, again, like I said earlier, yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a tied game at halftime. And I think that Temple's going to come out and they're going to go on, I think, a 10-2 run. They're going to go on a pretty hot run and take the lead. And I think they're never going to surrender it. And I think they're going to do what it takes. And they're going to buckle down and continue to do the things that they do on defense and be that defensive-oriented team and shut the Hawkeyes down.
Yeah.
And take it 68-64 and move on to the round of 32 in Brooklyn.
Now, I mean, that would be awesome to play Nova. That would be amazing. And like I said earlier, I can't wait to drink the tears. I can't wait.
I hope to be with you, man. I hope to be with you. What's your take on this?
Oh, man. Dude, I think, like, this is hard to predict because I don't think we match up well. I think they have a better. I think they have more talent. The fact that they can really guard the 3-point line is a concern because we take a lot of threes. But but they're just not playing well right now. So I don't know. But like I said earlier in the show, I am gonna in my pool. I have Iowa winning. All right. So I have Iowa winning. Every time I pick Temple, we lose. So reverse psychology is in effect. It's in full swing, and I'm not even going to say that they're going to win. I'm just going to let it happen.
Good. Couldn't have said it better. You can't, like you said, you can't script these. Can't script March. You can't script this game. You can't script the whole tournament. So we'll let it happen, and hopefully the best will happen for us on Friday.
Yeah.
Here's can only hope. Yeah.
Now let's just talk about some of the rest of the bracket just really quick before we go. Give me your final 4 teams and give me a Cinderella.
All right, final 4. Kansas, North Carolina. I'm going to go Miami and Florida in the final 4. And I'm going to go with Kentucky.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have.
And the reason I think Kansas is because Kansas has a very talented team, and I think that this Jayhawks team could be Bill Self's best team with like Perry Ellis and Wayne Selden. I think they're just very talented and they're just big. I mean, they outlasted Oklahoma in a 3 overtime thriller. I mean that could have been the game of the year in Lawrence in the Allen Fieldhouse. But I think they're just very talented. I think that not a lot of teams in the country could match up well with Kansas, and Kansas just overpowers a lot of teams. North Carolina is just North Carolina. North Carolina is just very, very good. I mean, they have Marcus, they have Page, they have Bryce Johnson. They have a talented team. The reason why I say Miami of Florida is just they seem to be on the hitting their stride too in the ACC. At least they seem like they were doing that during the regular season and a little bit in the tournament. But I think they're the best team in the West bracket. I think that's where they're going to outlast Villanova. They're going to outlast the number 1 seed Oregon Ducks, and I think they have what it takes there. And I think that Kentucky, you're talking about Coach Cal, Adrian. Coach Cal, right? Coach Cal, and he always has the guys fired up. He always fires up the guys, and it's always Kentucky and Kentucky's legacy and their tradition. I think it's going to carry him again.
Okay.
So, how about you?
Cinderella team too?
Cinderella. Well, I think this is a year I think this tournament on paper is scripted to have a lot of Cinderella teams because there are a lot of mid-major teams in there that can last a long time. And I'm gonna go with the Cinderella team I went with last year. I'm gonna still say Northern Iowa. I'm gonna say Northern Iowa.
All right.
Yeah. I think Northern Iowa can do it. At least last to the Sweet 16 or maybe Elite 8. So it's just something about Northern Iowa. I think they're 25, 26, 27 win team.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have tools.
They got some wins this year. North Carolina. Yeah, they got some wins.
Yeah, I think they have what it takes. I mean, if they can beat like North Carolina, they're going to be a tough out for anybody. So keep an eye on them, I would say.
Yeah. All right. I've got Kansas. I've got Kentucky. I've got Oklahoma, and I've got Michigan State. That's my final four. So if anyone's listening to the show, you can make some money on that.
Wow. And then ultimately the champion will be who? I have Kansas. I can't pick against Kansas.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a weird feeling about Kentucky. I don't know. They remind me of the Michigan team from a couple years ago. They had a bunch of guards. You had Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway, and then they had an emerging big man in the tournament that was a freshman named Mitch McGarry. And it kind of reminds me of this team a little bit. You got Tyler Ulis, you got Jamal Murray, and you got a freshman that's been disappointing this year, but has been on the precipice of breaking out, and that's Scala Bissiere. So I think this team is, and they pulled off a little bit. What's that?
And they have Alex Poitras.
Yeah, they got Marcus Lee too. So they're talented. I'm really curious to see how they fare. And my Cinderella is Yale. Yale is my Cinderella in the tournament. I've got them going to the Sweet 16. They play Baylor in the first round, and then they might play the Dukies in the second round. And I would love to see Yale.
First tournament bid since 1962.
Yeah, there you go. See, tidbits from Joe.
1962, since the John F. Kennedy administration. It was the last time Yale was in the tournament. All you history buffs out there.
Yeah. All my Cinderellas are gone. I was really big on Monmouth. Monmouth was the team that I was just all about, and it's just a shame that they didn't get in. So yeah.
I know that's a shame, but I don't know. Yale has, I think Yale has what it takes, and now that the Ivy League's starting a tournament apparently next year, it's going to be like a fair game for Ivy League members. FYI, 14th tournament next year.
It's funny how the Ivy League does it right. How they're smarter than everybody else. It's just fitting that they're smarter than everybody else because their conference tournament is only 4 teams, and that's what it should be. Because I'm sick of some of these teams like Holy Cross, that's a 9 seed, getting into the tournament, beating out a Bucknell team. I mean, it's making the regular season meaningless. Because, like these 1 seeds, if you go out and lose in the first round of your quarterfinal game, the whole season is moot. So that's been a big gripe of mine for a long time. And there has to be a way that you can make it so the top seed gets a decided advantage, and I like how the Ivy League's doing it. Only 4 teams, that's all you need. Exactly.
But yeah, they should have a run, and knowing Duke's not having a Duke type of year. The defending champs, they're not having the year that Duke normally has. And Duke's down this year. I mean, they're still in the tournament, and they're still a number 4 seed, but Duke is just Duke had struggled in the ACC this year.
Yeah.
They lost to North Carolina, they lost to Miami, they lost to Utah out of conference. They're not hitting they're off this year. I don't know, the freshmen have to can they into Coach K's system? They're just, I don't know. They're just off. They're not playing Duke type basketball like we've seen in recent years.
Mm.
But they're still in the tournament, but they're Duke.
Yeah.
So,
I can't wait for Yale to knock them off. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And it can happen because Duke did lose to Lehigh a couple of years ago. And who would have ever thought Lehigh would beat Duke or Mercer would defeat Duke?
Mercer? Yeah, they lost to Mercer. They lost to a bunch of teams the last couple of years. So,
yeah,
it's possible. I mean, let's see. Who does Duke play? Duke plays in the first round. It's
play UNC Wilmington.
Okay, that's probably
they'll beat UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just kind of scanning the bracket real quick, just looking for some Cinderellas. I mean, it's some of the Cinderellas that I like. They're just playing tough opponents. I like Stony Brook, but they're playing Kentucky. That's not going to happen. I like Jamil Warney a lot. You got Hawaii playing Cal. I like Hawaii too, but California's got a lot of NBA talent, and they're kind of hitting the right stride. Arkansas Little Rock is an interesting one. They play Purdue, but the thing about these mid-major teams is a bunch of them are obviously they don't have the size of some of these major teams, and Purdue is one of the biggest teams in the country. You got three guys at center basically. So Caleb Swanigan, Isaac Haas, who's the other one? AJ Hammond. So I don't see that happening. I like Fresno State a little bit. That one, I wouldn't be shocked if they can beat Utah, but we'll see. I mean, there's always some upsets.
Absolutely, and it'll be an interesting NCAA tournament, like it is every year. All the upsets, and that's what makes March Madness what March Madness is.
Yep, absolutely. So we're about 45 minutes in. I didn't think this was going to take this long, but. I told you 20 to 30, so well, you got an extra bonus out of it. Got 15 more minutes than we were gonna go.
Good to know. Good to know.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just watch for the 5-12 and the 6-11 games because they're always prone to upsets.
Yes, dude, I love it.
And I don't think this year will be any different.
The 5-12s in the first round are always my favorites. I love those games. Because I'm a big mid-major guy. I mean, Temple's always been kind of like a mid-major, so I love underdogs, man. I love underdogs. And we're from Philadelphia. It's an underdog city. Rocky, Vince Papale. It's an underdog.
That's right.
So we love our underdogs.
Yeah, absolutely. But it'll be a fun tournament to watch. And just enjoy it.
All right. With that being said, that's Joe Polinsky. I'm Adrian Fedkiw. Go Temple. And if you're watching this and you're a Nova fan, well, shit sucks because you're going to lose. And you're going to lose to us. Bye. See ya.
See ya.